Alright guys, so today I took my GED test and I got the results back and I didn't pass, but I'm very happy. It was up to me and not somebody else. I didn't finish high school because circumstances in my household when I was young growing up were difficult. My mother had cancer. She died from cancer when I was 16. She got sick when I was 14, so I've been working since I was 14. But on top of the fact that, I'm sorry if I get a little emotional. Despite the fact that at home it was a difficult situation. In school, we were being discriminated, and the person who got me expelled from school, a woman by the name of Julie Sprague, right after she lied and got me expelled from Gulf Coast High School, they actually moved her up to superintendent of the school systems, as if to reward her for all her it's unreal how much entrenched racism there is in that school system. And again, you don't have to take my word for it. You can just look it up yourself and you'll see all the things that have been happening in the school systems down there in Naples. Most of the kids were sent to New Beginnings, or sent to the other programs like Beacon. I mean, by the time you got to Beacon or New Beginnings or Alternative Learning, it was 80% Hispanics and blacks. So there's no need for me to elaborate. I mean, if you're from Naples, you know what I'm talking about. They made it extraordinarily difficult for me. So, like, even though I failed my GED test, I'm really happy because this time it was up to me to determine my future. I mean, I got white hairs on my face. I'm 33 years old doing what I should have done when I was 17. And that's okay. You know, you got to get out there and get what's yours. You can't let these school systems and all this discrimination prevent you from doing what you need to do. You got to get out there and get it. Like, your future is in your hands and nobody else's hands. So, you know, if you're black or Hispanic and you've been through this crap in the United States, you can't let that determine your future. I failed my GED test today because I was not prepared for the math. I'm glad that I failed on my own terms and not on somebody else's. The computer didn't discriminate me. It asked questions and I gave answers, and my answers were wrong. I never really got to learn algebra and fractions algebra. But again, I'm really happy that I failed on my own terms and not on the terms established by somebody else. I did pass 3 of the 4 courses, so I got to sharpen up my algebra, my fractions, get out there and take that test again so I can get my GED. And it's been really emotional for me because this is something that I feel was taken from me unjustly. And it feels good to fail on my own terms and not fail because I was predetermined to fail. It's just something really small and insignificant, but it means a lot to me. Just driving through that parking lot with what I consider fellow students for one day and being able to drive away in my car, blasting my music, even though I failed, felt good. Only 11th and 12th graders were allowed to drive their cars to school in Naples because there's so many kids with cars that they couldn't let every kid. 9th and 10th graders weren't allowed to drive their cars because there's so many kids in that school that drove cars because it's a really wealthy area. If you're in 9th and 10th grade, you just wanted to get to 11th and 12th grade so you could drive your car to school, and they never let me do that. And today, to be able to drive my car through that parking lot felt really special to me. You got to understand, when somebody's trying to take something that's, you know, yours illegitimately, there's no stopping people's hate. You know, people go to any extent to ruin somebody else's life or to take something that's not theirs from you. In my case, it was my education. When I lived in Alabama, I had to walk away from my house, man. It was my house. I paid for it cash. No bank loan. No. My house under my name, and I had to walk away from it. I moved back to Florida homeless, sleeping in a car for a few weeks until somebody helped me get back on my feet. But even though I owned the house outright, I was homeless. because I realized that if I stayed in that house, the envy and greed that other people had to take what was mine was going to lead them in that direction, or was going to lead me to do the same thing to protect it. And you have to recognize that sometimes it's just better to walk away from something. I also owned my house in Naples, Florida, and I walked away from it, I recognized that there were so many people around me there that wanted to hurt me, that envied what I had. Where I live now in Lakewood Ranch, everybody here has more than me, so I don't have to worry about people envying what I have. You can have somebody who envies my fame, envies that I have a YouTube channel, but they don't have to envy me. And actually, I've even talked to Kitty, is fixed on wanting to own real estate again, and I keep telling her, I don't want to own anything. I want to rent everything. I don't want, if I have something, I want to have it in the bank where nobody can see it, because I feel like if you have something, it just makes you a target for people to want to take it from you. And unfortunately, even when you're poor, people will take your education from you. People will take things from you that aren't even worth anything, because it's not about wanting what you have. It's about that they don't want you to have it. And I feel like here in Lakewood Ranch, I don't have to worry so much about people envying what I have. Maybe somebody doesn't like that I have what I have, that's another story. But I feel like here in this environment of just a little bit more affluence and all that, hopefully I don't have to run into that. I've moved myself away from situations when I notice that people are trying to encroach on what's mine, because I think it's petty to fight over things. I think the most beautiful things in life aren't even material things, it's experiences. And those are very difficult to take from somebody. I feel like even if you're poor, there are some things like your family, your personality, and your experiences that nobody can take that from you. Those are things that are yours that just can't be taken from you. And those things are something people can envy, but they can't grab and take. And well, I guess my point is that a lot of people today, so what I'm really trying to say isn't exactly that you should fight to the death for what's yours, but I'm saying also recognize when it's time to walk away from something, and also recognize when it's time to reclaim something. And don't let the fact that somebody's taking something from you mean that you can't have that and even better things in the future. Because I do believe in justice, and justice, for it to take place, which requires a lot of patience on your part. Things aren't just going to happen for you overnight. There's a level of patience that you're going to have to display to be able to obtain the things you want and deserve. And that right there is all the way up to you. So just recognize when it's time for you to take back what's yours, and not in a way that is violent. The beauty of taking back what's yours, a lot of times people go about getting back what's theirs in a very disgraceful way because they're filled with hate and rage. You got to be very graceful. You got to hold your head high, and you got to do it with dignity and pride. There's a right way to reclaim what's yours, and that right way is with dignity. Because nothing will hurt the person who took those things from you more than to see you with self-respect and dignity get back what's yours in a very dignified way. If you go about it the wrong way, it just puts you on their level, and I think the one thing that they can't take away from you is your dignity, your self-respect. But if you give that to them, that's up to you. So think about, what's yours, and think about, if somebody's unjustly taking something from you, may it be your education. I know people have lost everything as well. Can't go back from that. A live dog is better than a dead lion. You gotta patiently wait for what's yours. So anyways, my next move is to learn some algebra, learn some fractions, because I got 3 things down. I got 1 to go. I gotta retake that math course, get in there and take care of that, and then I can have my GED. And while it's probably completely insignificant to me in the stage of life I am right now, I'm self-reliant. I don't know if I'll ever need it in my future. Probably won't. Hopefully won't. But it's not about what it's going to do for me materially, because we're already, and maybe it will. Maybe there's things that I wanted to do. Like, I wanted to be a lot of things. I wanted to be a lawyer. Well, there's 1,000 things that I wanted to do that I wasn't able to accomplish. And I guess the beauty of not having material strains on yourself is that I guess you can have the time to acquire the things you want, and those things could just be a career. And maybe not a career because it pays more money. Maybe it's a career because you think it's more fulfilling. I had a lot of teachers when I was growing up that were very inspirational. I can think about a few teachers, actually. In Gulf Coast High School, there's one teacher, I can't remember his name. He volunteered during the lunch hour. He would grab kids that were kind of troubled, and he taught us how to make music, how to do video programming, or kids that had those types of interests. It wasn't too many of us. And for a while, that's the only thing that kept me going to school. It wasn't even the education that I was getting for a while. It was the fact that this teacher was teaching us what we wanted to do. And thanks to him teaching me FL Studios and a bunch of other audio and video editing software, I'm able to do what I do for a living now. So that teacher, not through the curriculum, but during the lunch hour, instead of having lunch, we would go to his class and he would teach us these things. And that's how I'm able to live today, because he took his time to give us something extra that wasn't part of the curriculum, to make sure that we had a future, a career that wasn't defined by the metrics that society was giving us. Like, he kind of knew that a lot of us weren't going to make it, but he knew if he could teach us these skills, that we could use these skills online to have some type of career in music or video editing. And at least for me, it helped, There's a teacher also called Mr. Williams. He's an African-American teacher from Atlanta, Georgia. He taught us in North Naples Middle School. I don't know where he's at, but that was also an exemplary teacher that we had. I know in Louisville, Kentucky, in kindergarten, that were above and beyond, dealing with inner city kids in Louisville, Kentucky. Beyond all challenges, were beautiful, amazing teachers. So I can definitely think about a lot of teachers that were definitely inspiring and amazing. But unfortunately, there's also teachers that literally try to ruin our lives.